The transport ships descended through the orange sky of Kepler 442b like falling stars. Yuna pressed her small face against the observation window of New Busan Colony, watching them land. Her father had told her important visitors were coming today. Very important, very dangerous. "Stay close to me," Ambassador Daeho said, placing his hand on his daughter's shoulder. His voice was tight with worry. "The Vrask are not like other aliens we've met." 8-year-old Yuna nodded, but her eyes remained fixed on the landing pad. She had seen many aliens before. The colony was full of different species. Some had tentacles. Some had scales. Some glowed in the dark. None of them scared her. The ships opened. Guards in armor stepped out first, their weapons ready. Then came the Vrask. Yuna heard people gasp. Even her mother, Dr. Hana, took a step backward. They were massive. 8 feet tall, covered in thick armor plates that looked like dark metal. Each one had multiple eyes that glowed red in their head. Their limbs ended in claws that could tear through steel. When they walked, the ground seemed to shake. High Commander Vrath led them. He was the largest, his armor covered in scars from 100 battles. Behind him on a chain walked something smaller. A Vrask cub. The cub was only 4 feet tall, but it already looked dangerous. Its armor was still developing, showing patches of soft skin beneath. A metal muzzle covered its mouth. Chains held its small claws together. It made low, frightened sounds as it was dragged forward. "Why is it chained?" Yuna whispered to her mother. "Vrask young are very aggressive," Dr. Hana explained quietly. "They raised them to be warriors from birth. That cub would attack anything that came near." The diplomatic reception began in the colony's biodome gardens. Adults stood in nervous groups talking in low voices. Yuna's brother Jiwon stayed close to their parents, watching everything with his recording device. The Vrask delegation stood apart, not mixing with anyone. Yuna wandered toward the garden's far edge. The flowers here reminded her of Earth, of her grandmother's garden in Korea. She picked up a small stone, smooth and pretty, and put it in her pocket. A sound made her turn. The Vrask cub had somehow gotten free from its handler. The chain dragged behind it as it ran, confused and scared. People screamed. Security guards raised their weapons. The cub backed into a corner near where Yuna stood. Its multiple eyes darted everywhere, looking for escape. It made a hissing sound and raised its small claws in defense. Foam dripped from behind its muzzle. "Yuna! Get away from there!" Her father's voice was sharp with terror. She saw him running toward her, saw guards moving into position, saw the fear on every face. But Yuna looked at the cub and saw something different. She saw a baby. A scared baby that didn't understand where it was or why everyone was shouting. Its eyes weren't angry. They were frightened. She sat down on the ground, cross-legged, 3 feet away from the creature. The cub's hissing stopped. Its head tilted, confused by the small human who wasn't running or screaming. Yuna began to hum. It was a song her grandmother had taught her, a gentle Korean lullaby about stars and sleep and safety. Her voice was soft and steady. The cub took 1 step forward. Then another. Its claws retracted slightly. "Yuna, please," her mother called out, trying to keep her voice calm. "Please come here, sweetheart," but Yuna kept humming. She slowly extended one hand, palm up, not reaching for the cub, just offering, showing she meant no harm. High Commander Vrath had his weapon drawn but not aimed. He watched with an expression no human had ever seen on a Vrask face before. Shock, wonder, fear. The cub came closer. It sniffed at Yuna's hand with the holes in its muzzle. Then it made a sound that froze every Vrask in the garden, a soft, vibrating purr. Yuna opened her arms. The cub collapsed into her embrace, its small limbs wrapped around her, careful not to scratch with its claws. It pressed its muzzled face against her shoulder and made that purring sound again. Louder now. The entire garden fell into absolute silence. Yuna held the creature gently, one hand stroking the soft parts between its armor plates. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're safe. Nobody's going to hurt you." The cub's whole body relaxed. The fear left its eyes. It made small, contented sounds. Dr. Hana had tears running down her face. Ambassador Daeho stood frozen, his mind racing to understand what he was seeing. Jiwon's recording device captured everything. High Commander Vrath slowly lowered his weapon. He walked toward his offspring and the human child with careful steps. His officers followed, their multiple eyes wide with disbelief. "This is impossible," Vrath said in his deep, grinding voice. The translator collar around his neck turned his words into Korean. Our young do not show affection. They cannot. They are born warriors. She's just scared, Yuna said simply, still holding the cub. Babies get scared. It is not a baby. It is a soldier in training, another Vrask officer said harshly. It has shown weakness. By our law, it must be culled. No. Yuna tightened her arms around the cub protectively. The cub pressed closer to her. Vrath stared at his offspring. For the first time in his long life, he saw something in a Vrask youngster he had never seen before. Joy. The cub's eyes were bright, not with aggression but with happiness. Dr. Hana stepped forward carefully. Commander Vrath, may I speak? The massive warrior nodded. I study how different species develop, she said. On Earth, humans once believed we were born only with instinct, that love and kindness had to be forced into us. We were wrong. We discovered that environment shapes behavior just as much as genetics. She gestured to the cub in Yuna's arms. Perhaps Vrask young are not born without the capacity for affection. Perhaps they've never been given the chance to show it. War Master Krell, one of Vrath's officers, made a disgusted sound. You suggest we have raised our species incorrectly for 10,000 years? I suggest there might be another way, Dr. Hana replied calmly. Ambassador Deho saw an opportunity. His diplomatic mind worked quickly. Commander Vrath, our peoples are negotiating an alliance. Trust is difficult to build. Perhaps this could be a gesture of trust on both sides. Explain, Vrath commanded. Let the cub stay with my daughter during the summit. 3 weeks. A cultural exchange of the deepest kind. If your concerns about weakness prove true, you can reclaim your offspring. If not, perhaps both our species learn something valuable. The Vrask officers erupted in angry clicking and hissing. This was against every tradition they held sacred. But Vrath raised one massive claw for silence. He looked at his offspring again. The cub seemed content for the first time in its short life. No chains, no muzzle causing pain. Just a small human child offering comfort. I will allow this, Vrath said slowly. Each word seemed to cost him something. For the duration of the summit only. 3 weeks. But know this, Ambassador. If my offspring shows continued weakness, our law demands its death. I will not break our traditions even for peace. Deho swallowed hard. He had just gambled his daughter's safety and a cub's life on a hope. Yuna stood up, still holding the cub. Can we take off the muzzle? It hurts. Vrath hesitated, then nodded to one of his officers. The warrior carefully removed the muzzle and chains. Free of restraints for the first time ever, the cub nuzzled against Yuna's cheek. I'm going to call you Bomb, Yuna announced. It means spring. Like new things growing. The name was recorded in both human and Vrask records that day. History would remember it. The moment a human child hugged a monster cub and everything changed. The first morning, Bomb destroyed Yuna's room. Dr. Hana found her daughter sitting calmly in the wreckage, reading a book while Bomb shredded curtains with small claws. Furniture was overturned. Toys were scattered like debris from an explosion. Yuna, sweetheart, what happened? Her mother asked carefully. Bomb had a bad dream, Yuna explained. Got scared? It's okay, we'll clean up. Bomb, hearing the tension in Hana's voice, immediately moved between Yuna and her mother. The cub's armor plates hardened. Its claws extended. A low growl rumbled from its throat. No, Bomb, Yuna said firmly. She put her hand on the cub's head. This is my mom. She's Pack. We don't threaten Pack. The cub looked confused. Pack was a concept it didn't understand. In Vrask raising creches, there was no pack. Only dominance hierarchy. Over the following days, Yuna taught Bomb what family meant. When Yuna's friend Taiyang came to visit, Bomb went into full defensive mode. The 9-year-old boy froze in the doorway, terrified. The Vrask cub was smaller than him, but those claws were very real. Bomb, sit, Yuna commanded. The cub ignored her. Its multiple eyes focused on Taiyang as a threat. Yuna stood up and walked to stand beside Taiyang. She took his hand. Friends don't hurt friends, Bomb. Taiyang is my friend. That makes him your friend, too. Bomb's head tilted. The aggression faded slightly, replaced by confusion. Yuna sat on the floor. Come here, both of you. Taiyang sat down nervously. Bomb crept forward, still watching the human boy with suspicion. We're going to play a game, Yuna announced. She pulled out her tablet and started a simple matching game. Taiyang, you go first. The boy tapped the screen, matching 2 pictures. Nothing happened. Bomb's turn, Yuna said. The cub looked at the glowing screen. Its claw tapped clumsily, matching two more pictures. A happy sound played from the tablet. "Good job," Yuna cheered. She clapped her hands. Bomb's eyes brightened. That sound meant approval. Approval felt good. They played for an hour. Slowly, Bomb relaxed. When Tai Young accidentally touched the cub's arm while reaching for the tablet, Bomb didn't attack. It just looked at Yuna, who smiled and nodded. By the end of the visit, Bomb allowed Taeyang to pet its head. The cub even made the purring sound. "This is incredible," Dr. Hana recorded in her notes that evening. Bomb is learning social behavior at an accelerated rate. Without the stress of constant combat training, the cub's brain is forming new neural pathways. It's adapting to human social structures, but not everyone was happy with the progress. War Master Krell arrived with two other Vrask officers to observe. They stood in the family's living area, massive and intimidating. "Show us what the offspring has learned," Krell demanded. Yuna was doing homework at the table. Bomb lay beside her, playing with a puzzle toy. It was a peaceful scene. "Bomb, come," Yuna said without looking up. The cub immediately came to her side. "Sit." Bomb sat. Gentle touch. The cub carefully placed one claw on Yuna's arm, retracted to avoid scratching. Krell made a disgusted sound. "This is not a Vrask warrior. This is a pet. You have broken its spirit." "I haven't broken anything," Yuna said, her voice calm but firm. "Bomb is still strong, watch." She went to the door and opened it. "Boom, outside. Run fast." The cub shot out the door like a missile. In the garden, it ran at speeds that blurred its form. It leaped obstacles with perfect precision. Its developing armor plates gleamed in the sun. "Come back," Yuna called. Bomb raced back, skidding to a stop at her feet, not breathing hard despite the exertion. Vrask physiology was remarkable. Strong and fast, Yuna said to Krell, but also able to listen, able to choose. "A warrior does not need to choose," Krell replied coldly. "A warrior acts on instinct. Kills without hesitation." As if testing this, one of the Vrask officers made a sudden movement toward Yuna. Bomb transformed in an instant. The playful cub became a lethal defender, placing itself between Yuna and the threat. Its armor hardened completely. Its claws extended fully. The growl from its throat was pure Vrask fury, but it didn't attack. It waited, protecting but controlled. "Stand down," the officer said in the Vrask language. Bomb didn't move. It only responded to Yuna's voice. "It's okay, Bomb," Yuna said softly. "They're not really going to hurt me." "Stand down." The cub slowly relaxed, though it kept itself between Yuna and the Vrask. Krell stared. A Vrask showing protective instinct rather than blind aggression? It went against everything he knew. "The trial continues," he said finally. "But know this, human child. You are teaching it weakness. When the time comes, weakness will kill it." After the Vrask left, G1 came home from his studies. He had been documenting everything for a school project about cultural exchange. His videos of Yuna and Bomb had been shared with his classmates. Then those classmates shared them with others. Within a week, the videos reached Earth. Humanity watched an 8-year-old girl teaching the galaxy's most feared species to play, to share, to show affection. The images were powerful. A small human child and a deadly alien cub, curled up together while Yuna read stories aloud. Bomb listening with focused attention, learning Korean words through repetition. News programs showed the clips. "A new hope for interspecies relations," the headlines read. "Human child befriends Vrask warrior cub." But the attention brought problems. Anti-alien groups on Earth called it propaganda. Some humans feared the Vrask were using a child for manipulation. Some Vrask called it contamination of their species. The Galactic Coalition watched nervously. The Vrask military alliance was crucial for defense against the Korvax Empire. If this experiment failed badly, it could destroy years of diplomatic work. One night, Yuna woke to find Bomb trembling. The cub was having a nightmare, reliving memories of the combat creche where it was born. In those memories, weakness meant pain. Failure meant punishment. "Shh," Yuna whispered, wrapping her arms around the shaking creature. "You're here now. You're safe." "Safe," Bomb repeated in halting Korean. It was one of the first human words the cub had learned. "That's right. Safe with Pack." "Pack?" Bomb said, pressing closer. Dr. Hana stood in the doorway, watching. She recorded the moment in her research notes. The cub is not becoming less Vrask. It's becoming a Vrask who knows safety, affection, and trust. These are not human traits. They're universal traits that the Vrask culture suppressed. Outside, unknown to the family, High Commander Vrath stood in the garden. He had come in the night to check on his offspring, as he had done several times. He heard the conversation through the open window. For the first time in his life, Vrath felt something strange. Regret. He had never held his offspring, never heard it make sounds of contentment. Vrath's tradition said this was strength, but watching Bomb thrive with Yuna made him question everything. Ambassador Deho found him there. "Commander," Deho said quietly, "is everything all right?" Vrath was silent for a long moment. Then, "I have killed hundreds of enemies in battle. I have led armies across worlds. I am strong by every measure my people value." He paused. "But I have never heard my offspring laugh. I do not even know if Vrask can laugh." "Perhaps they can," Deho replied. "Perhaps they just needed someone to show them how." The summit was halfway through. In another week and a half, Vrath would have to decide, take Bomb back to Vrask ways, or admit that everything his people believed about strength might be incomplete. The weight of 10,000 years of tradition hung on that choice. Inside, Yuna fell back asleep with Bomb curled around her protectively. The cub's multiple eyes slowly closed. For the first time in its short life, it dreamed without fear. Tomorrow would bring new lessons, new challenges. But tonight there was only warmth and safety and pack. The universe was changing, one hug at a time. The woman who entered New Busan Colony made everyone stop and stare. Broodmother Scarix was ancient and massive, even larger than High Commander Vrath. Her armor was covered in scars from battles that had happened before humans even reached space. She led the Vrask Matriarchy Council, controlling all matters of reproduction and genetic legacy. She had personally culled over 300 weak offspring in her lifetime. "I have come to see the corrupted one," Scarix announced in the council chamber. Her voice made the walls vibrate. Ambassador Deho tried to maintain diplomatic calm. "Bomb is not corrupted, Broodmother. The cub is thriving. We shall see." They went to the family quarters. Yuna was teaching Bomb to paint. The results were messy. Colorful paint covered the walls, the floor, and both of them. Bomb's claws weren't made for holding brushes, but the cub tried hard, tongue sticking out in concentration. "Look, Bomb," Yuna said, showing the cub how to mix colors. "Blue and yellow make green." Bomb carefully dipped a claw in the paint and made a crooked green line. The cub looked at Yuna for approval. "Beautiful," Yuna cheered. Bomb made the purring sound, clearly happy. Scarix stood in the doorway, absolutely frozen. A Vrask cub, creating art, playing. The foundations of her worldview cracked like breaking ice. "This is impossible," she whispered. Yuna turned and saw the enormous Vrask female. Bomb immediately moved into a protective stance, placing itself between Yuna and the stranger. "It's okay, Bomb," Yuna said. "She's just visiting." But Scarix was not looking at defensive postures. She was looking at the paintings on the wall. Crude, childish attempts at art, things no Vrask had created in their entire history. "What are you doing to our species?" Scarix asked, her voice shaking. "I'm being its friend," Yuna replied simply. Over the next 2 days, Scarix watched everything. She saw Bomb learning words, saw the cub playing games with Taeyang and other human children, saw it helping Yuna with simple chores, working together rather than competing for dominance. The broodmother began to question 10,000 years of tradition. Then War Master Krell made his move. He arrived at the colony with an official declaration, sealed with the Vrask High Council's marks. The offspring called Bomb must face trial by ordeal. "Ancient law demands it." "No," Yuna shouted. "Bomb is just a baby. Vrask offspring face trials at 1 year of age," Krell said coldly. "It is law. 3 days of survival in a hostile environment, alone, no help. The weak die. The strong prove themselves." Ambassador Deho stepped forward. "This is unfair. Bomb hasn't had traditional combat training. The trial is designed for creche-raised warriors." "Then the offspring will fail," Krell replied. "And we will know the human way produces only weakness." High Commander Vrath stood silently. By law, he had to allow the trial. By his heart, which had started to feel strange new things, he wanted to refuse. Scarix made the decision. "The trial will proceed, but I will observe personally." Yuna had 2 days to prepare Bomb. She couldn't teach Vrask combat. That was instinct, built into Bomb's genes. What she could teach was human innovation. Problem-solving, adaptation. Dr. Hana helped. She showed Bomb how to identify safe water sources, how to avoid toxic plants, how to use tools. Ji-won demonstrated how to create simple shelters using available materials. Taeyang and other colony children created support banners. "You can do it, Bomb," they wrote in both Korean and Vrask script. The night before the trial, Yuna couldn't sleep. She sat with Bomb in her room. "I'm scared," she admitted. "What if something happens to you?" Bomb had learned enough Korean to understand. The cub placed one claw gently on Yuna's face, careful not to scratch. "Pack," Bomb said firmly, one of its favorite words. "Yes, we're pack," Yuna agreed, tears in her eyes. "Bomb. Strong. Come back, promise." Yuna hugged the cub tight. "I'll be waiting. Right here? No matter what." The trial arena was a biodome that simulated Vrask Prime's environment. Hostile flora that could grab and poison, toxic gas pockets in the soil, temperature extremes, and fauna, creatures designed to hunt and kill, hundreds gathered to watch. Vrask observers, human diplomats, Galactic Coalition representatives, news feeds broadcasting to multiple worlds. Bomb entered the arena. The door sealed behind the cub. For 3 days it would be completely alone. Yuna stood at the observation window, her face pressed to the glass. Her parents stood on either side, hands on her shoulders. The first day, Bomb used speed and agility to avoid threats. A serpent-like creature lunged from the undergrowth. Instead of fighting it directly, Bomb climbed a rock formation where the serpent couldn't follow. Smart thinking. "It's adapting to the environment instead of just attacking everything," Dr. Hana observed. "That's a human strategy." War Master Krill frowned. This wasn't proper Vrask behavior. When night fell, temperatures dropped dangerously. Bomb found a cave, but instead of just hiding, the cub gathered dry vegetation and used friction to start a small fire. Warmth and light. Another human technique. Yuna smiled through her tears. Bomb remembered. "We practiced fire starting last week." The second day brought worse challenges. A pack of predators surrounded the area where Bomb had sheltered. 6 against 1. In traditional Vrask training, a cub would attack relying on rage and natural weapons. Bomb did something different. The cub used the terrain, leading the predators into a narrow canyon where they couldn't surround it. Then Bomb used rocks as weapons, throwing them with surprising accuracy to drive the pack back without direct combat. "Tactical thinking," Counselor Minho said with approval. "The cub is using its environment as a force multiplier." Scarix watched in absolute silence. Every instinct told her this was wrong, but the results were undeniable. Bomb was surviving better than most combat-trained cubs would. On the third day came the final test. A fully grown Vrask combat drone entered the arena. It was programmed with one purpose: test the youth's killer instinct. To pass the trial completely, Bomb had to kill it. The drone was twice Bomb's size, armored, and equipped with weapons. It spotted the cub and attacked immediately. Bomb fought back. Claws against claws, armor against armor. The young Vrask showed all the natural fighting ability of its species. Fast, vicious, efficient. The drone went down, damaged and helpless. This was the moment. Bomb stood over the fallen enemy. One killing strike to the vulnerable throat joint. That's all it would take. The crowd held its breath. Bomb raised its claw high, then stopped. The cub looked at the drone, looked at the observation window where Yuna stood, remembered a lesson. We don't hurt those who can't fight back. Bomb stepped away from the drone, leaving it alive but defeated. Failure, War Master Krill shouted. It refused the kill. The trial demands death. The trial demands survival, High Commander Vrath said, standing up. His voice filled the chamber. Bomb survived 3 days, defeated every challenge. The drone lives because Bomb chose mercy, not because Bomb was too weak to kill. Mercy is weakness. Krell roared. Is it? Vrath challenged. Bomb made a choice. Our warriors act on instinct alone. They cannot choose when to fight and when to spare. They cannot adapt to situations where mercy might create allies instead of corpses. He looked at all the Vrask present. Perhaps that is why we have been at war for 10,000 years. Scarix stood slowly. Everyone fell silent. When the broodmother spoke, her words changed history. I have watched this offspring for days. I came prepared to order its death as unfit. She paused. Instead, I have seen the future of our species. Bomb is not weak. Bomb is evolved. Gasps filled the chamber. I declare this trial passed, Scarix continued. Furthermore, I propose changes to Vrask child-raising protocols. Offspring will be raised by parents, not combat creches. Bonding will be studied, not suppressed. War Master Krell and his supporters protested loudly, but they were outvoted. The broodmother's word carried more weight than any warrior's. The arena door opened. Bomb limped out, wounded but alive. The cub looked around with all its eyes searching. "Bomb!" Yuna shouted. The cub saw her and ran. Despite injuries, despite exhaustion, Bomb ran straight to Yuna. The girl dropped to her knees and embraced the cub. "You came back," she sobbed. "You promised and you came back." "Pack," Bomb said, holding her tight. "Always pack." Around them, the universe was changing. Not all Vrask accepted it. War Master Krell left the colony in disgrace, gathering supporters who believed the old ways were the only ways. But the majority, especially younger Vrask, saw hope. They saw that strength and compassion could exist together. High Commander Vrath approached Yuna and Bomb. He knelt down, bringing his massive form closer to their level. "Thank you," he said to the 8-year-old human girl. "You have given me back my child." That night, for the first time in Vrask history, a father held his offspring with affection rather than judgment. And in her room, Yuna slept peacefully with Bomb curled around her protectively. The trial was over. They had won, but greater challenges were coming. 5 years passed like a breath. Yuna was 13 now, taller and more confident. Bomb had grown to 7 feet, with armor plates fully developed and strength that could bend steel. But the bond between them had only grown stronger. New Busan Colony had become famous across the galaxy. Other Vrask families cautiously began allowing their offspring to interact with humans. The results amazed everyone. Young Vrask who learned alongside human children showed increased intelligence, better problem-solving skills, and the ability to form genuine friendships. But not everyone celebrated the change. Deep in Vrask territory, Warlord Draxus gathered supporters. He was old, traditional, and believed that integration with humans was the death of Vrask identity. His followers called themselves the Pure Blood Movement. "We are warriors," Draxus roared to his assembled forces. "For 10,000 years we conquered through strength. Now we play with human children and paint pictures like soft creatures. This is genocide of our culture." War Master Krell, who had left New Busan in disgrace, stood beside him. "The corruption spreads. High Commander Vrath has betrayed our species. The human child who started this must be eliminated." "And the offspring she corrupted?" another warrior asked. "Especially that one," Draxus said coldly. "Bomb represents everything weak about the new ways. Kill them both and the movement collapses." Intelligence reports reached New Busan within days. Ambassador Daeho read them with growing horror. "They're planning to attack the colony?" he asked the security briefing. "Not the colony," Counselor Minho corrected. "Just Yuna and Bomb, surgical strike." "Make it look like an accident." Dr. Hana's face went pale. "We need to send her to Earth, to safety." But when they told Yuna, she refused. "No," the 13-year-old said firmly. She stood straighter than she had as a child, her voice steady. "If I run, Draxus wins. He'll say that human Vrask bonds are weak and temporary. Everyone who believed in us will lose hope." "Sweetheart, these are trained killers," her mother pleaded. Bomb stood beside Yuna, now taller than any human adult. The Vrask's multiple eyes focused on Yuna with absolute loyalty. "My pack. I protect." Jiwon, now 21 and a junior diplomat, understood his sister's thinking. "She has a point. Running proves them right. But we can't just do nothing. Then we do something bold," Yuna said. "We go to Vrask Prime, face them directly. Show Vrask citizens that we're not afraid." The room erupted in protests. "That's suicide," Counselor Minho shouted. But Ambassador Daeho raised his hand for silence. He studied his daughter's face, saw determination, saw courage, saw someone who understood what symbols meant in politics. "It's brilliant," he said quietly. "And terrifying, but brilliant." The diplomatic vessel carrying Yuna, Bomb, and the human delegation left for Vrask Prime a week later. Captain Yunji, a young pilot who had grown up hearing stories about Yuna and Bomb, considered it an honor to fly them. "We'll get you there safely," Yunji promised. Though what happens after landing is another matter. The journey took 8 days. Yuna spent time studying Vrask history and culture. Bomb helped her practice the Vrask language, which Yuna had been learning for years. "Do you remember your homeworld?" Yuna asked one night as they looked at the stars through the viewport. Bomb was quiet for a moment. No, taken when very young. You are home. Yuna leaned against the Vrask's armored side. I'm honored, but you should see where you came from. Scared, Bomb admitted. Me too, Yuna whispered. But we're pack. We face scary things together. Vrask Prime appeared on the view screen like a dark jewel. The planet was harsh. Heavy gravity, toxic atmosphere pockets, storms that could tear apart mountains. It was a death world that had forged one of the galaxy's deadliest species. The delegation needed environmental suits to breathe outside the protected zones. Bomb needed nothing. This world was built for Vrask. High Commander Vrath met them at the landing platform. He looked older, with fresh scars from recent battles against the Pure Blood movement. You should not have come, Vrath said to Yuna. Draxus has supporters throughout the capital. I cannot guarantee your safety. I'm not asking for guarantees, Yuna replied. I'm asking for a chance to speak to your people. Broodmother Scarix arrived, flanked by her honor guard. The summit begins tomorrow. Leaders from every Vrask clan will attend. Draxus has invoked peace protocols, so he will be there too. Can he be trusted to honor those protocols? G1 asked. No, Scarix said bluntly, but tradition demands it. And tradition is the one thing Draxus claims to value. That night, Yuna stayed in quarters designed for human guests. Through the window, she could see Vrask Prime's violet moon rising over jagged mountains. This world was beautiful in a harsh alien way. Bomb stood on the balcony, breathing the homeworld air for the first time in memory. What do you think? Yuna asked, joining the Vrask outside. Strong world, makes strong people. Bomb paused. But strong is not only fighting. You showed me this. The next morning, the summit convened in an ancient arena carved from volcanic rock. Thousands of Vrask attended. Human diplomats sat in a protected section. Galactic news feeds broadcast everything to billions of viewers. Yuna felt very small in her environmental suit. Bomb stood beside her, taller and stronger than most Vrask present. Warlord Draxus entered last. He was 12 feet tall, covered in scars, carrying traditional plasma-edged blades. His multiple eyes swept the arena with contempt. Ambassador Tae-hyun, representing Earth's interests, gave the opening speech about cooperation and mutual benefit. The Vrask listened politely but without enthusiasm. Then Draxus stood. Words, pretty words about friendship and peace. His voice boomed across the arena. But words do not build empires. Strength does, and we have grown weak. Murmurs of agreement rippled through some sections. The human child and her pet represent this weakness, Draxus continued, pointing at Yuna and Bomb. They parade this corruption as progress. I say it is death. Yuna felt Bomb tense beside her. The Vrask's armor plates hardened instinctively. High Commander Vrath stood to respond, but Draxus interrupted. I challenge the corrupted offspring to single combat. Traditional Vrask duel. No rules. To the death. The arena fell silent. If it wins, perhaps there is some strength left. If it loses, we prove that the human way creates only corpses. Bomb stepped forward before anyone could stop it. Accept. No. Yuna grabbed Bomb's arm. You don't have to do this! But Bomb looked down at her with all its eyes. Yes, must, for all young Vrask who learn human friendship. For future, this is why we came. Ambassador Daeho tried to intervene. This is murder. Draxus is twice Bomb's size and a veteran of 100 battles. Vrask law permits the challenge, Vrath said heavily. I cannot refuse it without dishonoring my position. Scarix stood. The challenge is accepted. Combat will begin at sunset. Prepare yourselves. Yuna spent the afternoon in tears. Dr. Hana held her daughter while Jiwan tried to find some legal way to stop the duel. There was none. Bomb sat calmly, sharpening its claws on traditional Vrask grinding stones. The Vrask had grown up playing with human children, learning art and language and gentleness, but Bomb was still Vrask, and when the time came, those instincts would awaken. I'm sorry, Yuna whispered. This is my fault. If I hadn't hugged you that day, you could have grown up normal. You wouldn't have to fight for your life now. Bomb placed one claw gently under Yuna's chin, lifting her face. That day, best day. Every day after, good day. No sorry. Only grateful. But what if die? Bomb interrupted. Die protecting what matters. Die showing Vrask can be strong and kind. Worth it. Sunset painted Vrask Prime's sky in shades of purple and red. The arena filled with spectators. Weapons were distributed to Draxus. Bomb refused them, choosing to fight with natural claws and armor alone. The two Vrask entered the combat circle. The size difference was shocking. Draxus looked like he could crush Bomb with one hand. Any last words, corruption? Draxus mocked. Bomb spoke clearly in both Vrask and Korean, loud enough for all to hear. I fight not to prove strength. I fight to prove choice. Strength is choosing when to fight. Not fighting always. The combat bell rang. Draxus charged like a living tank. Bomb dodged with speed, learned from playing chase with human children. The warlord's blade sliced air where Bomb had been, and the real battle began. The duel was brutal. Draxus fought with the fury of 10,000 years of tradition. Every strike was meant to kill. His plasma blades cut through the air with deadly precision. His size and experience should have ended the fight in minutes, but Bomb had learned from humans. The young Vrask dodged, ducked, and used the environment in ways no traditional Vrask warrior would think to do. Bomb rolled under strikes, jumped over sweeping attacks, and kept moving constantly. Stand and fight, coward. Draxus roared. Bomb didn't respond with words. Instead, the young Vrask struck back. Fast, precise hits to weak points in Draxus's armor. Not killing blows. Testing strikes. Learning the warlord's patterns. Yuna watched from the protected viewing area, her hands pressed against the transparent barrier. Her face was wet with tears she didn't bother to wipe away. Come on, Bomb, she whispered. Be smart. Stay alive, the combat continued. Minutes became an hour. Draxus began to tire. His massive size required enormous energy. Bomb, smaller and faster, conserved strength through efficiency. And then Bomb did something that shocked every Vrask watching. The young warrior started talking during combat. Why do we fight? Bomb asked in Vrask, dodging another blade strike. What? Draxus was confused by the question. Why do Vrask fight? Bomb pressed, blocking an attack with armored forearms. What do you protect? Tradition, strength. Our way of life. Draxus slashed wildly. Our way has only war, Bomb said, landing a solid hit to Draxus's side. 10,000 years. Always fighting. Never peace, why? The warlord paused, breathing heavily. Around the arena, Vrask civilians began murmuring. It was a good question. What had endless war achieved? We fight because we are Vrask, Draxus shouted. It is what we are. No, Bomb said firmly. It is what we were taught to be. Not same thing. The younger Vrask pressed the attack now. Draxus defended, but his movements were slower. Fatigue was setting in. I learned different, Bomb continued, speaking loud enough for all to hear. Learned that pack means safety. Learned that friends make you stronger. Learned that choosing when to fight is better than fighting always. Human lies. Draxus swung desperately. Bomb caught the blade between armored claws and twisted. The weapon flew from Draxus's hand. The warlord stumbled backward, now unarmed. The arena held its breath. Bomb stood over the fallen Draxus, claws raised for the killing strike. By Vrask law, the duel should end in death. By tradition, Bomb should finish it now. You are defeated, Bomb said. I could kill you. Tradition says I should. Then do it. Draxus snarled. Prove you have Vrask strength. No, Bomb said simply. Killing you proves nothing. You taught me that, Yuna did. The young Vrask looked toward where Yuna stood, making eye contact across the distance. Yuna showed me that real strength is choosing mercy when you could choose death. Real strength is making enemy into friend. Real strength is changing when change makes you better. Bomb stepped back from Draxus, lowering its claws. I will not kill you, warlord. I offer you same choice Yuna gave me. Learn new way or stay alone in old way. But I will not become killer just to satisfy tradition that needs to end. The arena erupted. Some Vrask cheered. Others hissed in anger. But everyone had witnessed something unprecedented. Draxus lay on the ground alive because his enemy chose mercy. The concept was alien to him, incomprehensible. Broodmother Scarrick stood. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. The duel is ended. Bomb has proven that Vrask can be warriors and more. Strength and wisdom. Power and choice. She turned to the assembled clans. I declare the bonding program officially sanctioned. Vrask offspring will be given the choice to learn from other species. Those who wish to maintain pure tradition may do so. But we will not suppress those who choose evolution. Not everyone agreed. War Master Krell and several other hardliners stormed out, followed by about 30% of the assembled Vrask. They would form their own colonies, maintaining pure Vrask culture without outside influence, but the majority remained. Especially the young Vrask, who looked at Bomb with new eyes. High Commander Vrath approached Bomb. The massive warrior knelt before his offspring. I am proud of you, Vrath said, his voice thick with emotion. You have done what I could not. You have shown our people a new path. Bom touched its father's armored head gently. You gave me to Yuna, you made the first choice. I just continued it. The barrier opened and Yuna ran to Bom. The 13-year-old girl threw her arms around her enormous friend. You idiot, she sobbed. You could have died. Pack protects pack, Bom said softly. You taught me. Now I teach others. The image was captured by every newsfeed, a human child and a Vrask warrior, embracing in the middle of an ancient combat arena. The picture would be shown in history classes for generations. 10 years passed. Yuna, now 23, served as ambassador to Vrask Prime. She walked the same halls where she once feared for her life. Now young Vrask cubs played in the gardens with human children, learning together. Dr. Hana's research had revolutionized xenobiology. Her studies proved that environment shaped development across all species. Governments were redesigning education systems based on her findings. Jiwan led the Galactic Coalition's cultural exchange programs. Hundreds of species now participated, learning from each other. Bom, now 16 and fully adult, stood 9 feet tall. The Vrask served as second-in-command to High Commander Vrath and led the first integrated Vrask human military unit. They were called the Pack Defenders. The unit was famous not for brutality but for effectiveness. They combined Vrask combat instinct with human tactical innovation. They won battles with minimum casualties on all sides. Yuna had a daughter now. 4-year-old Sora had her mother's curious nature, and Bom had an offspring, the first Vrask cub raised with both parents present, learning both warrior skills and gentleness. The 2 younglings played together in New Busan's gardens, watched over by parents who had changed the galaxy. Then came the day everyone had feared. The Korvax Empire attacked. The Korvax were an insectoid species that conquered through overwhelming numbers. They had been expanding for decades, consuming colony after colony. The Galactic Coalition had hoped diplomacy would work. It didn't. Warning sirens blared across New Busan. Attack fleets approached from 3 vectors. Thousands of Korvax ships, each carrying millions of warriors. Yuna stood in the command center receiving reports. Her daughter was safe in bunkers. Her parents coordinated civilian evacuations. Jiwan managed coalition fleet deployments. Bom entered, wearing full combat armor. The Pack Defenders were ready. Bad timing, Bom said. We were supposed to have dinner tonight. Yuna smiled despite the fear. We still will. After we win. Confident, Bom observed. I learned from the best, Yuna replied. The defense of New Busan became legendary. Vrask warriors fought alongside human pilots. The Pack Defenders used tactics that confused the Korvax, who expected either human caution or Vrask berserker charges. They got both coordinated perfectly. When Korvax ground forces landed, they found themselves facing something unexpected. Vrask who used cover and coordinated fire. Humans who fought with Vrask ferocity when defending their homes. The battle raged for 3 days. The colony took damage, but it held. On the 3rd day, the Korvax fleet withdrew. Their hive mind calculated that this colony was too costly to take. They had expected either weak humans or mindlessly aggressive Vrask. They got Pack Defenders instead. Admiral Kyung-soo reviewed the battle reports with amazement. Minimum casualties on our side. Maximum effectiveness. This shouldn't be possible. It's possible when you fight for Pack, Bom explained. Not for glory. Not for conquest. For family. Makes difference. Broodmother Scarex, watching from Vrask Prime, sent a message to the Coalition. We have learned what humans already knew. Bonds make us stronger than isolation. The Korvax will learn this too eventually. That evening, Yuna and Bom did have dinner together. Sora sat on Bom's lap, demanding stories about the battle. Bom's cub asked Yuna about Earth, fascinated by descriptions of a world without death predators. Tell me again, Sora said. About how you met Bom, Yuna smiled, exchanging a glance with her oldest friend. Well, she began, I was 8 years old, and I saw a very scary creature that everyone said was dangerous, but you hugged it anyway. Sora interrupted, knowing the story by heart. I did, because I saw that it was scared, not scary. And it never left, Bom added softly. Never left, Yuna agreed. Outside, stars glittered in the night sky. Among those stars, the galaxy was changing. Species that had been isolated for millennia were learning to cooperate, not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. Young Vrask cubs painted pictures alongside human children. Vrask parents held their offspring with affection. Warriors learned that strength included knowing when not to fight. And it all started because an 8-year-old girl saw a monster and chose to hug it instead of fear it. The Korvax Empire would attack again. There would be more battles, more challenges. But the Galactic Coalition stood ready, not as separate species pursuing separate interests, but as pack, as family. In her quarters, Yuna tucked Sora into bed. Bomb's cub was already asleep in the next room, watched over by Bomb. "Mom," Sora asked sleepily, "do you think I'll have a friend like Bomb someday?" "Maybe," Yuna replied, kissing her daughter's forehead. "Maybe you'll be someone's friend like Bomb. Either way, remember what I learned." "What's that?"